Welcome to the first video homework for our Term 5 unit on cities. Remember, you can pause and rewind the video so that you can take notes so that you have all the information that you need for your lessons next week. Just to recap, this is week 1 homework for our week 2 lessons starting next week. So this is what we'll be looking at in lesson next week. We'll be looking at how cities are organised, where offices and shops are located, where the houses are located, and where different types of houses are within a city. This week's video looks at one idea of how land is used in cities. You should watch the other video first. If you don't have the link for this, search for land use model, and it's a video uploaded by a guy called John Lancer. And you should watch that one first and then come back to this one. In this video, we're going to look at one idea of how land is used in cities, and this idea is called the Burgess model. This is the Burgess model of urban land use. It was thought up by a man called Mr. Burgess when he was looking at the city of Chicago in the USA. He looked at it in the 1950s and 60s, so it's a bit old, and we'll have a think about whether it's still relevant or not in the lesson. Burgess suggests that cities grow outwards from the CBD, which is in the middle of the city, where we see number 1. And CBD stands for the Central Business District. And the city grows out in a series of concentric rings, circles inside one another. And each of these rings, as you can see on the diagram, is used for different things. It's a different land use. The oldest part of the city is at the centre, and the newest part is on the outer edge. The quality and size of housing increases with the further away from the CBD it is. Near the centre of the city, in the CBD, the height of buildings tends to be the highest because there is not much space, and what space there is very expensive. This means it makes more sense to build upwards and use less space. The quality and size of houses increases with distance from the CBD, but the density, how close together the houses are, decreases as more space is available. The CBD. This is the Central Business District, and it's located right in the middle of the city, often where rail and road routes meet. So there is often a large train station and other transport in the Central Business District. It contains many commercial activities, shops, entertainment like cinemas or theatres, and also business activities, things like offices. This is the oldest part of the city, so there may be lots of old buildings. But often, lots of the older buildings have been replaced by modern buildings, which are high-rise and to get the most out of the small amount of space available. This is the inner city, which is also known as the transition zone. The land use here is mixed and includes small industries as well as high-density residential land use. Residential land use means there are houses and people live there. This residential land use is often characterised by terraced housing where all the houses are in a row joined together, or blocks of flats built upwards. It may be an area that used to be old factories, but these are often now shut down. The area is often a little bit run down, and people who live here tend not to be very wealthy. The people who live here often tend to be new to the area or new to the country. These people often move out of the area as quickly as they can when they have a bit more money. The inner suburbs. This is a residential area that were often built originally during the 1920s and the 1930s. The houses are usually detached, which means that each house is a separate building, or semi-detached, where there are just 2 houses joined together and a gap between the other houses. Most of the houses have gardens, and people here are neither rich nor poor. Most people live in this part of the city. This is the outer suburbs. This is a residential area which grew up later than the inner suburbs, and as the more public transport became available and private car ownership became more common. This meant that people could live further away from their places of work. So the people living in the outer suburbs often travel to the CBD every day for work. These houses are often semi-detached or detached, with larger gardens and garages. They're often more spread out than in the inner suburbs. There may also be shopping centres or small modern factories. The people who live here are often wealthier than those who live in the inner suburbs and significantly wealthier than those who are living in the inner city. There are also at times large shopping centres, open spaces and some small factories in this part of the city. This is the rural-urban fringe. It's right at the edge of the town or city and is usually low density, which means that everything here is really spread out. There's often houses which are larger detached properties, meaning there's gaps between each house and each house has a separate building. There are maybe new industrial estates where there are small offices or small modern factories. And there might be business parks as well, where you require a bit more space for the offices. There may also be leisure activities that require more space, things like golf courses in this area of the city. This is, as I said, the edge of the city, and often there's fields and lots of space around whatever is built in this area. And after this point, we get into the countryside, the rural area. So in this video, we've been through the 5 different areas that the Burgess model describes for land use in urban areas. This has been the central business district, right in the centre at number 1. Number 2, the inner city, just outside of that. After that, the inner suburbs at number 3. Number 4, the outer suburbs. And number 5, the rural-urban fringe. Make sure that you're clear about these different areas of the city, what they're like, and how Burgess said that they were laid out. Draw a diagram of the Burgess model and make notes of it from the video. Write down any questions that you have to ask your teacher. Watch this video again now, pause it at different points and make sure that you have all the information that you need written down so you're ready to use it in the lessons next week.